Hey everyone, and welcome back. If you are following along with me, we are going to be building some pretty cool things today. Anything from interactive icons all the way to prototypes. So you need to get this resource. You should have a link to it, the photo inspiration application resource. Don't request to edit it. Come into this menu and go to duplicate the file or duplicate it to your drafts. So that's the best way to get this one. Next thing you're going to do is you have this beautiful cover photo. You have all your assets here where you have some beautiful interactive components that we're going to recreate. You have some screens here that we're going to use. These are going to be your main screens, and you're going to have some beautiful prototypes over here. So that way you can reference what we're creating. We're going to recreate all these prototypes: category transitions, simple micro interactions, screen transitions, and we're going to do some dragging. Now you're going to need a couple of different plugins. Let me show you. You're going to need the material design icons plugin. This one's really great for grabbing icons. We're going to create some interactive components with them. If you don't like those icons, there's so many plugins out there. Another great one is called Streamline. Let's take a look. So Streamline icons, illustrations. You can get some beautiful icons for free over here. So definitely use that for icons if you need to. The last one we are going to be using is the Unsplash plugin. Now we may not be using it through some of the lectures, but this is what I use to create some beautiful screens here. You can find some beautiful pictures of whatever, animals, nature. You do a lot of great stuff over here and find a bunch of beautiful imagery. So you can easily use a plugin like that to help fill out the rest of this app. And at the end of this project, you're going to have an assignment. So let's jump right in because there's so much to learn. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be working on some cool prototypes. Let's jump right in. The assets page over here, and we have 3 different home screens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all 3. I'm going to hold shift while I select all the frames here, name it home. I'm going to copy them, so Command C or Control C. I'm going to go over to my prototypes tab. Now I'm going to press Command V or Control V and bring them over side by side. So let's analyze this prototype here, because what we're going to recreate is something pretty amazing. I'm going to press play, and we're going to do some very simple category transitions. These are kind of like page transitions. So what we're going to do here is we can just switch it from screen to screen. So we can, if you click nature, you'll get a nice fade in effect, or architecture, you'll get that nice fade in effect of the images. And maybe if I drag back, so it's going to work with drag as well, but the images are going to stay the same in the same position. Essentially, it's pretty easy to do that. We have it set up over here. Let's take a look at our layers. So we're going to keep these layers all the same. We're going to call them heading. We can see that they're the same over here in this page as well, in this frame. Same thing. The only thing that's going to change is the sub navigation. It's going to shift. So if we click into here, we can see, if I click on my design tab, you can see that they're all named by their actual name. And the nav items are just moving from left to right. I'm using my arrow keys. It's really, really easy. So we have them set up as such. So essentially what's happening here is the color change. All we need to do is go into our prototype tab. And so nature, if I click over here, I'm just going to make sure, it's set to home. We're going to click Smart Enemy, and it's going to be 300 milliseconds. And if I click Architecture, bring it over here, same thing, 300 milliseconds is fine for now. Now, let's see how that works. We could just call this our V1. We go back into our prototypes. We'll see V1's at the bottom there. So we can already see. Beautiful. If I press R to restart it, let's see if it goes to architecture. You see how that slides nicely? That's what we're looking for. So now we're just going to do our due diligence over here, and we're going to, link them accordingly. So now we have architecture linking here. So if we go back to our prototype, now there's no real way to get back aside from swiping. So let's see how we can do this. So if we take a look at all of our rectangles in here, they're all named the same. So this is rectangle 13 in the middle. This is rectangle 13 as well. All of them are the same, and that's why you get that nice kind of dissolve from that fill. So it's that Smart Animate property that we're just changing. Okay, so I'm going to take the gallery frame inside here that houses all the gallery items, and I'm going to drag it to the home frame over here. And all I'm going to do is, instead of Smart Animate, I'm going to use Move In. So that's going to slide in from the left, and not on click, but on drag. So we're going to animate all the matching layers. So anything that is matching is going to animate nicely. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Select the gallery frame. And on drag, I'm going to move in from that side. And I can select that gallery frame and use it to drag in the other direction as well. But we're moving in this direction, so I'm pulling it in. And then I'm going to select this last one, this gallery frame on this side, and do the same thing if I want to navigate back to here. But I gotta make sure they click on drag. Now we can test it out. So we're on the architecture tab. We're just gonna press R to restart. Let's see. Beautiful. So if I drag, I'm getting that nice pull. I can go in all directions. And I have some clicking. So that's how you can create some pretty interesting dragging smart animations. And also just on-click interactions just to get those transitions going from category to category, or in this state, this kind of like screen transition as well. You are kind of just navigating these images, and you could hypothetically move these blocks around or something like that, or have a different name for each of the gallery images. So it could be something like this. We can call this gallery 1. This one could be gallery 2. And this one could be gallery 3. And now you have this kind of like overlay. But if you don't want that overlay, you can, instead of move in, we can choose something like push. So if I select all of these and change move in to push, you can keep the direction the exact same way. Let's do that. We're almost done here. Here we go. So that's pretty nice. And then you can switch up the different positions of the images if you wanted to. We got some pretty interesting little interaction going there now. And that's how you can create some pretty nice category transitions. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to get into creating some very simple micro interactions. So let's do that. Let's create some interactive components, and we're going to make some like nice little icon buttons. So we are in our photo inspiration application resource. If you come over to the assets, we can see that we have this nice little icon over here. We have like a chevron left icon, and we have just like a love icon. So really simple stuff. If you go into your prototypes page and click play, we can come up over here to our simple micro interactions, and we see this beautiful page over here. We see the icons at the top, and all that we're going to do here is, if you click on it, it kind of has like a pressed click state. So that's what's going to happen when you click it on like mobile. So you can see that's been interacted with. It's really beautiful. let's go back. We are going to create those exact same icons. And let me show you how. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into your plugins, your right click, and you can either do that or command and control and // and you can open up your command menu, or you can come over here and go into your plugins. I'm going to pick one, and we can use like material plugins, material design icons. And we're going to look for 2 different types of icons. So we're going to select 24 by 24. I think that's what I have here. Oh, I have F32, but it doesn't matter. So we're going to click arrow. So we're going to pick this left one. And we're going to look for heart. Or maybe it's love. Love? Like. Okay, we're going to have to go searching for it. I don't know why it's not named heart. There it is. Oh, it's favorite. Okay, that's fine. We're going to grab both the outline version and the filled version. And we're going to scan close. Okay, so we have our icons. We can call this one left chevron. That's the proper name for this type of arrow. And we'll call this, we'll just select both of them and call it love. Now, let's work on the chevron first. We're going to select this and just create 999 on the border radius. So it's going to be circular. And we're going to make sure that the color in the inside is going to be white so we can see it beautifully. I think we have like, it's set to like 32 pixels. 32 by 32. Perfect. And we'll take this vector image in the background that you can't really see, and we'll call this one background. And this, we can maybe extend it outward and make it a circle as well. Perfect. So you can't really see anything right now. So we'll create this component. Go to Properties, Variant, Auto Layout. We'll do 20. And we'll do state for the property name. So this is our default state. If we make a duplicate, Command D or Control D, we'll call this one clicked or pressed. And all we're doing here is going inside, going to the background, and we'll give it a little bit of a fill. So it'll be maybe 000 with like 10% or something. Let's see what I made it on here. So this one's 20%. So we can do 20% as well, just to make sure that, you know, you can see it. And so can't really see it with that background, but like make it gray. There we go. And we can prototype this. So when I click, it's going to go to that one and it's going to be quick, like 100 milliseconds. Ease out, that's fine. Over here, it's going to go back. So after delay, you know, maybe like, I don't know, 50 milliseconds, it's going to go back the other way. So now we can test it out. If I press F and make a frame, let's make this I don't know, make it this color, and we'll drag a copy. So I'm holding Option while I do that. So you can drag a copy here, right in the middle. We'll go to our prototype, flow starting point, just call it flow 1. Let's see what happens here. I click play. Okay, so there's our icon. So that's a nice little interaction. So there you go. That's how you create a quick icon interaction. Let's do the same for the love icon. So we can come here, create a copy of this. I'm option and dragging. We'll just call this love. And we'll just swap it out. So we'll do, this one's going to need multiple properties. So we do design, and we'll create a property called is loved, and we'll call it false. So when it's not loved, it is going to be essentially empty. And when it's loved, it's going to be filled. 32 by 32. I gotta make sure these are 32 by 32. Perfect. So I'm going to drag the vector on the inside over there. We can delete that one and delete that one. We can actually make these a little smaller, maybe. Perfect. Okay. And we're just going to basically make them white. So like I said, we're not going to use auto layout anymore. But like I said, these are not loved. And so these ones are going to be loved. So true. And essentially just going to bring this in. This one's 20 pixels. Okay, just going to drop that in there. Make sure it's centered in there. Just do the exact same thing on this one. Beautiful. We can delete this, and we can basically make these like red. Okay. So the prototype is as such. So when you click on this, we're going to actually have to cross them up. So when you click on this one, you want to go to being like in that loved state. And then the after delay will go back to here. And when you click on this one, instead of going to that love state, you're going to go to the empty state. So let's see what this looks like beside our another icon over here. So it's in that love state, and there we go. Beautiful. And there you go. That's how you create some interactive icons. Hey everyone, if you were following along with our very last lecture about how to create some interactive icons, you'll have something very similar to what we have over here, which is essentially just a, love icon and a left chevron. And what we're going to do next is we're going to put those inside an actual frame so you can see them working. So let's go to our prototype page over here, and I'm going to click prototype, and I'm going to click the play button. And if we go to our simple micro interactions one, we'll see that we have one over here. So you're able to maybe love an image or like an image, add it to your favorites, and go back and navigate away from this page. So that's how that works. It's looking good. I want to show you how you can do the exact same thing and, throw that in there. So we're going to go to our assets page. We can click our design tab over here. And I do believe I have one ready. So all we're going to do is, create a copy. You can drag one over. And I have this nice little kind of controls panel. And you don't have to use it. I like to use different frames and stuff like that. So I'm going to drag them in here. We have our copies in here. These are our icons that we created together, and I'm going to hold them together and press Shift A. It's going to put them in a frame. And we could just call this header, or you can call it controls. Doesn't really matter. And we can put this like at the top, let's call it controls. And we can, drag it all the way out. We can give it maybe some padding on the side, like 24 pixels. We won't need that on the top. And instead of like the spacing like that, what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and click auto. So it's going to space it right across. And there you go. If we click play, or if we go to our prototype tab, flow starting point, this one's just called flow 2. We'll be able to click play and see it already there, looking beautiful. Boom. And there you go. That's such an easy way to create your very own micro interactions and then take those interactive components and throw them into your prototype so you can see what it looks like while you're designing. Also, while you're just showing off like a page, it's a nice little kind of added extra like tidbit that brings those designs to life. And that looks great. There you go. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be creating some pretty cool prototypes for screen transitions. So let's jump right in. So if I go into my assets tab, I have this beautiful image over here. I'm going to grab this image and I'm going to press shift and I'm going to grab this one too. These frames are going to be the ones that we're going to use today. I'm going to command or control C, come into my prototypes, and I'm going to come over here and paste them in. I'm just going to drag them side by side because these are the two we're going to use. Now, this is essentially the prototype. It looks really simple, but it's really beautiful, I promise. We're just going to press play and come right in here. And we're going to go all the way down to screen transition. So what I want to show you is how do you create like some sort of masking effect where you click on a image and it pops up as like the main screen, and we have some like parallax built in. So if I click back, beautiful. So I'm going to show you how we're going to create the exact same thing. So we can just analyze this really quickly. It's essentially one click. See, very simple, smart animation. And then from this page, it's an after delay. So after like 1 millisecond, it immediately just continues onward. And then going backward, we have a little gentle bounce. That's why you get this kind of like little bouncy effect. Very gentle. Okay. I want you also to take note of two things here. We're staggering a lot of the content and we're naming the content the same. So these rectangles or these squares all have a numbered name, except this one we call the main image. Over here, it's the exact same thing. We have the gallery. It's kind of wrapped in a gallery tab, and it's called main image. So we're keeping even the layers the same. So the way it's structured is as it goes home, body, which is this container, and within body, there's gallery. Let's see over here. We have body, gallery, main image, and this content over here is staggered as well. It's hidden. If we go to our design tab under 0% opacity, that's why we're getting that same parallax effect. Same with the controls. The controls are down here and hidden as well. So let's try and recreate the same thing. So we can just call this transition. We're going to make another duplicate over here. This one over here, we'll just rename it, all right. Call it our main image. And this one's already called main image, so perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our controls and hold shift and bring them down and then set the pass through to 0. I'm going to take these, bring them down. I actually turn the body. I'm going to turn off the auto layout here so I can drag within. Just bring it down and set the pass through to 0%. And that should be good. That's literally all you have to do here. And I think the one last thing is, instead of having this kind of linear gradient that's happening, we're just going to turn that off. There we go. Let's go to a prototype tab. So when we click here, we are going to just animate easy, 300 milliseconds. Perfect. And then on this transition frame, we're going to do an after delay. And we're going to keep everything the same. From here, now we can navigate backwards. And we could just use the simple, gentle bounce that we have here for the animation. And lastly, let's set a flow starting point. We can leave it at flow 1 so we can see what it looks like. So here's our flow 1. I'm going to press R, just make sure everything's reset. Well, let's see it again. Okay, so it's okay. I think that we have some issues just with how quick it is. Let's take a look. So everything looks fine. This looks fine. This looks fine as well. I think the only thing is we compare the two. Beautiful. Let's see ours. Beautiful. So we're pretty close, I would say. We just need to make some simple changes. We can leave it as such. Make sure gallery is on top of content. And over here, we're just going to go to body. We're going to go to body. Make sure that says right. Looks beautiful. I think the last thing I'm going to do is make sure, I think maybe that linear gradient on the top is having an issue. So we're just going to remove it. That looks a little bit better. And there you go. You can easily create a very simple transition, just like how I just created, that matches what we have here. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be learning about how to create some nice scrolling transitions. We're going to first work on the horizontal scroll, just a very simple one. So you can come into your assets page here, you can grab an image, we can just, grab a copy and paste it, whatever you need to do. And what we're going to do here is we're going to select, and we have a vertical overflow going. Now, if we go into our section here, it's the name section, and go into our photos, all we're going to do here is we are going to have horizontal scrolling. And we're just going to take this and do that. So it's matched to the inside. You can hit fill container, and there you go. What we're going to do next is go select our image, click prototype. We're going to call it flow 1. We'll click play. So this is the easiest way. If you have content that's like horizontal and you wanted to just do a simple horizontal scroll, as long as those content pieces are hanging over the edge of the container, or the frame, you can easily create like nice little horizontal scrolling that you see here. And this took us like 2 seconds. All we did was we took this gallery container, we sent it to fill our auto layout container, or we can set a fixed width, like we can do something like that too. Not that that's going to work really well, but it's going to go all the way to the end of this frame. So if I left it like this, it'll scroll a bit, but we won't be able to see the rest, no matter how much we pull. And there you go. That's how you create a very simple horizontal scroll. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be working on more horizontal scrolling, but this time, instead of a very simple horizontal scroll that we just worked on, we are going to work on something like a hijack scroll, and I'll show you what that is. So let's go into our prototypes page and press play. So if we go all the way down to our horizontal scroll, we can see, we created something like this. But what happens if we don't want the user to be able to scroll through them also quickly? So if I drag and just goes to this next photo and drag back, it's kind of like hijacking that scroll for me. I can't drag it too much. So let me show you how you can do that. So we come over here, we have that prototype. It's really simple. If you click all the way into that prototype, you see this huge gallery frame inside the section. And all I am doing here is on drag, goes to the next page, and it's pretty simple. We're just using the gentle smart animation, keeping it simple. And on the next one, you have two on drags. You have one going back to this page and one going to the next page. So let's do it together. We're going to go back to our assets page. And if you still have that image, you can use that one, or we can drag a new copy because it's all the same, to be honest. And, we can open this up a bit so we can see what we're dealing with. Okay, so let's make a new copy. And over here, what we're going to do is we're going to break this auto layout container because we're going to have to drag this all the way here, like that. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to create a duplicate. So Command D or Control D creates a new one. Go into that gallery, shift it one more time. Like that. Boom. We're going to drag it. We're just going to keep on doing this. And I think we have one more. There we go. I think that's good. Okay. So we have our designs in place. And all we're going to do is we're going to select this one. So on drag to the next. And, if it's hard for you to see, you can kind of stack them on one another. Maybe that could help. Side by side is a little hard to see, so we can stack them. So let's do this. We already got one going on drag. Oh, sorry, it's on click right now. On drag. We're just going to keep it gentle. Let's select this one. We'll go back on drag. We're keeping everything the same. We'll go below on drag. Don't forget that. It's easy to forget it when you're just going so fast. On drag. And let's do that over here. Not navigate to on drag. We gotta do this a couple more times so we're done. On drag. And the last one. I promise this is worth it. On drag. Okay. So we have our prototype. You can take this prototype and put it back in like a straight line if you want. Flow starting point. So this one's going to be called flow 2. Let's press play. So we had flow 1 where we had this very simple drag here. I can't make it smaller. So we had this very simple one where we, dragging, nicely. And there you go. This is what our hijack scroll looks like. And I think it looks amazing. And if you're following along, yours probably looks just as good. Hey everyone, and welcome back. So if you've been following along, you probably have some beautiful prototypes, designs, components. But if you want to go the extra mile, we have an assignment for you. So let's jump right in. So you can continue creating this amazing mobile app, this photo inspiration mobile app to be more specific. If you want, create some simple interactive components to handle some other interactions, like maybe the navigation. What does it look like to change from another state to a next on that nav? Think about stringing together maybe some multiple prototypes to show off different parts of the app, or if you're feeling ambitious, try exploring those parts of the app a bit more in depth, because what does it look like to unlike and like a bunch of gallery images? Do you have like a little gallery page or a loved page or a favorited page that you have? There's so many things that you can do there, like swiping back and forth to delete and, maybe save, or I don't know. There's so many options to explore there just to test out your new skills. And if you've been following along, that's great. You have some stuff. If you haven't, go at your own pace. Some people like to learn differently. If you want to take in all that knowledge and just apply it afterwards, totally up to you. We all end up in the same place eventually. And I forgot to mention, don't forget to join our private online community on Discord. I promise you that this is one of the best resources from ZTM. We have some other students there, mentors, and even instructors like myself that are always willing to help if you have a question, just want to share your work, or if you want to have a great discussion. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're going to be talking about easing. This is when an object's behavior aligns with the user's expectations when a temporary event happens. Easing mimics the way real-world objects accelerate and slow down over time, and this applies to all UI elements that have motion. The opposite of easing is linear motion. UI elements displaying linear motion go from stationary to full speed and full speed to stationary instantaneously. And this type of behavior isn't natural and is always jarring for users. Think about how things slide in slowly or move quickly and then slow down. That's just not how things work with linear motion. Linear motion isn't really natural. Like, just think of like a ball, if you were bouncing, how it goes down and up and it reaches the top point really high and it's going slower and then it drops quickly. That is not linear motion. Linear motion would be like a ball going up and down at the same speed over and over again, which isn't natural. Easing creates and reinforces the naturalism. This creates a sense of continuity when objects behave as users really expect them to. Could be how something slides in or moves within the interface. Slowly, how these kind of move in nicely. That's easy. Hey everyone, we're going to learn about offset and delay. Offset and delay helps to define relationships and hierarchies of objects when introducing a new element and screens. When several UI elements move at the same time and speed, users tend to group them together and overlook the possibility that each element may have its own functionality. Offset and delay creates hierarchy between UI elements that are moving at the same time and communicates that they are related, yet distinct. Even before the user registers what these objects are, the designer has already communicated through motion that the objects are somehow separate, and this is extremely powerful. Instead of complete synchronization, the timing, speed, and spacing of elements are staggered, resulting in a subtle one after another effect that you see over here with the files loading. As users use a digital product, offset and delay shows them that multiple interaction options exist. Hey everyone, and welcome back. Parenting creates relationships between spatial and temporary hierarchy when interacting with multiple interface elements. Parenting links the properties of one UI element to the properties of another. When a property in the parent element changes, the linked properties of child elements also change. For instance, the position of a parent element can be tied to the scale of a child element. When the parent element moves, the child element increases or decreases in size. So in this case, we have a slider that's moving, and the numbers are also moving within the range. Parenting creates relationships between UI elements, establishes hierarchy, and allows multiple elements to communicate with users at once. Like in this example, how the user is sliding up and down and all the elements are reacting to it. Hey everyone, we're about to learn about transformation. Transformation creates a smooth narrative flow when an object's use changes. Transformation happens when one UI element turns into another. For example, like a download button or a play button transforms into like a progress bar, or in this case, like an audio little icon. And it could maybe change into something else in between. From a UX perspective, transformation is an effective way to show users their status in relation to a goal. This is especially helpful when the progression between UI elements is linked to a process with a start and a finish, like downloading a file or uploading a file. Transformation is the most discernible because it stands out. It grabs our attention, it tells a story, and has completion. Transformation allows us to combine separate key moments in the user experience into a seamless and continuous series of events. This seamlessness results in better user awareness, retention, and follow-through. Hey everyone, we are going to be talking about value change. Value change creates a dynamic and continuous narrative relationship when value subject changes. Representations of value, numerical, text-based, or graphic, are abundant in digital interfaces. Here's an example. They often appear in products ranging from like banking apps or personal calendars. You can see the values change when maybe you click a button or set a range. Because these representations are tied to data sets that exist in actuality, they are subject to change, whether it's like a stock or invoicing numbers that are going up or down or tasks that have been completed. Value change really does help inform users that certain data is interactive and may be influenced to an extent. When values are introduced without motion, users' willingness to engage with the data decreases. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be talking about masking. So masking really does help create continuity of an object or a group when its use is determined by which part of the object or group is seen or hidden. Masking is the strategic revealing and concealing of parts of a UI element. Let's take a look at this example. Detailed visuals like photographs and illustrations are very ideal candidates, whether it's literally masking within the face of an individual. We can see how different things are happening there. It seems to be some branding. But from a usability perspective, designers can implement masking to show users that they're progressing through a series of interactions. Maybe clicking on a card and moving it around for that card to become like a little profile avatar like we see in this example over here. And this really helps create a continuous and seamless user experience. This one is another great example, how the card turns into the larger part of the next page in the interface. Hey everyone, we are going to be learning about overlay. So overlay simulates depth by allowing elements to be hidden and revealed according to user needs. So think about the 2D space. There really is no depth, and UI elements may only move along the X or Y axis, which is like up, down, or side to side. Overlay creates the illusion of foreground, background, and the distinction in the 2D space of UIs. This really helps us communicate the relationship between the Z-axis, position layers, and in so doing, promotes spatial orientation for our users. So whether these different screens, how they overlay, like the different elements overlay like this, we can see that these cards like can be swiped up and down. More specifically, if we see this section right here, it kind of lives above the fold there. Information hierarchy is an important consideration when using overlay. For example, the first thing users should see in like a note-taking app is the list of their notes. Then overlay could be used to unveil secondary options for each message, like delete or archive. In this case, we can use the swiping as a way to find things underneath that card. So that z-axis is essentially what is on top and below. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're going to be talking about cloning. So cloning helps create strong narratives and relationships when new objects appear and leave. Cloning is a motion behavior wherein one UI element splits off into others. It's a clever way to highlight important information or interaction options. Think when UI elements materialize with an interface, they need a clear point of origin that links to an element already on the screen. Like over here, how all these reactions pop up as soon as you click them. If elements simply burst or fade into existence out of nowhere, users lack the context needed for confident interactions. In this example over here, that little button opens up all those options on the right. It's such a great way to use cloning. Hey everyone, we are going to be talking about obscuration. Obscuration allows users to spatially orient themselves in relation to objects or scenes not in the primary visual hierarchy. Picture a frosted glass door. It requires interaction to open, but it's possible to discern to some extent what awaits on the other side. Obscuration works the same way. It presents users with an interface that calls for interaction while simultaneously revealing a hint of the screen to follow. Things like navigation menus in this example, or passcode screens, or folder or file windows are common examples. Obscuration helps us as designers to compensate for a single field of view in user experiences. Like in this case, how this navigation menu comes over the rest of the hero image. Hey everyone, we're going to be learning about parallax. So parallax creates spatial hierarchy in the interface when a user scrolls. Parallax is displayed when two or more UI elements move at the same time but at different speeds. Here again, the intent is establishing hierarchy. Interactive elements move faster and appear in the foreground, and non-interactive elements should move slower and recede to the background. Designers can use parallax to separate out immediacy content from ambient or supportive content like images or text. Here's an example. By using time itself to tell the user what objects in the interface are higher priority, we can really establish hierarchy. Not only does the user perceive the interface objects as now having a hierarchy beyond that which is determined in the visual design, but this hierarchy can now be leveraged into having the user grasp the nature of the user experience before being consciously aware of the design and content. Hey everyone, let's talk about dimensionality. So dimensionality implies that the different sides of a UI element are linked and makes for seamless screen transitions. Dimensionality makes it seem as though UI elements have multiple interactive sides, just like objects in the physical world, think like a cube. The behavior is achieved by making elements appear as if they are foldable, flippable, floating, or bestowed with realistic depth properties. Dimensionality provides a powerful way to overcome the flattened non-logic of user experiences. So talking once again about that 2D dimension that we're kind of limited with. Dimensionality generally presents itself in three ways. We have origami dimensionality, floating dimensionality, and object dimensionality. Let's get to it. So origami dimensionality can be thought of in terms of folding or hinged three-dimensional interface objects. In this case, we kind of have this origami flipping of like a note or a card, which is pretty interesting. Then floating dimensionality gives interface objects a spatial origin and departure, making the interaction models intuitive and highly narrative. So this kind of swiping left and right and having it like hinge there. And lastly, we have object dimensionality, which results in dimensional objects with true depth and form, like I mentioned, like a cube. Thinking about how swiping like that can make it seem like things are turning and twisting. Hey everyone, and welcome back for the very last motion design principle, which is dolly and zoom. So dolly and zoom help to preserve continuity and spatial narrative when navigating different elements and scenes. Dolly and zoom allows users to travel through UI elements spatially or increase their scale to reveal a greater level of details. So number one, we have dolly. Dolly occurs when the user's point of view gets closer to or further from a UI element. Imagine a person with a camera walking up to a flower just to get a closer shot. In this case, going through the different scenes. It's a nice, interesting way of scrolling. Or using zoom. With zoom, the user's point of view and the UI element remain fixed, but the element increases or decreases in size within the user's screens. Now imagine that the person stays put and maybe uses that camera zoom feature to make that flower appear larger, or in this case, the pen, so you can see different points within that are very important. In this case, we have another example of kind of zooming into a product while still kind of feeling like it's fixed. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be creating so many different things here when we are recreating some motion design patterns within Figma. You'll have 6 different resources. We have our navigation resource, we have our scrolling resource, paging resource, dragging resource, micro interactions resource, and our delight resource. And you won't be able to use these resources unless you duplicate each of them. Right at the top, there's a little drop down there. So duplicate those so that way you can use them as a copy. We're going to be creating some pretty cool navigation components here where we're going to be working on so many different things like complex and simple navigations. We'll be working on scrolling. We'll be working on different pagination options that are available to us, dragging within Figma. We'll be working on more specific like micro interactions with like loaders and like buttons. And we will be working on some fun things like confetti pops, grocery checklists, and cool add to cart buttons that have some animations. You will need some different plugins. So definitely get your plugins ready because you will need to use Unsplash, which is a great plugin for grabbing different types of photos. You'll need another plugin called Material Design Icons. I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar with that one. That is just to grab icons. You can use Streamline as well, which is a great one. And you will need one called the Confetti Generator. I love this one. Look how cool. You can create some pretty cool confetti pops like I have over here. So let's jump right in and get started because we will be creating a bunch of different motion design patterns. Hey everyone, welcome back. We are going to be creating some cool navigation transitions in this section. And I am in my navigation transitions resource. All you have to do is come down here and duplicate this file if you don't already have it duplicated because you won't be able to edit it otherwise. So let's jump in because today we're just going to create that navigation. So you'll notice that there's a couple of different things in the assets folder. We have more complex navigation components, and we have more simple navigation components, and we have like just icons that we can use. Now you can use your own icons if you want. I'm going to just use these ones because we're going to create something like this. All I'm going to do is I'm going to click and shift all of these, and I'm going to press Option, Shift and Drag, So I'm just going to make a copy over here. You can copy and paste them as well. That works as well. And then I'm going to grab all these items here. So you can select them all and press Shift A. So that's going to create a frame. We'll just call this our nav items. And if I select everything and click Shift A, there we go. We'll have a navigation. And here you can set anything you'd like for your navigation in terms of like your sizing and stuff like that. I'm using some of these auto layout pieces over here, these properties. And I'm going to make this white. And that's how I've basically put together a navigation. You'll notice this one over here. We can go ahead and create some other components soon, but this is how we put together that navigation. Super easy. So we're just going to keep this over here. And we are going to use this in our next lecture. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to build this simple navigation. Let's actually go into our prototype so I can show you the simple navigation. So I'm going to click prototype, go into that play button. And so I'm going to do something very simple like this. Looks great. Let's get back over to our assets page because we'll build it in here. So essentially we want to create these variants, like we have a default state and an active state. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all these icons. Oops. Click design and drag out a copy of them. Let's create a component set. Make sure I like to space them out in a certain way. Fill to 100. Now we can, set the fill of these to maybe 20%. That's fine. We'll call this our icon. And let's go ahead and click type. So our first property is going to be called type. We have home, we have heart, we have cart, and settings. Oops. We're going to create another property and call that state. And right now we have the default state. I'm going to select all these, drag and make a copy. Oops. Let's open this up a bit. There we go. So we're dragging a copy here, and we're going to call this state active. And here we can give this any color. As you can tell, I have a blue, but we can make it any color. We can, make it a color like that. So I'm just going to use this color. So this is our active state. So we don't need to actually make any prototyping things with this. We don't need to create a click on click for these. What we're going to do next is we're going to place these inside. So I'm going to press Command C. We can actually get rid of a lot of those. If I select these and Command D or Control D or Control C, my goodness, it does not want to duplicate. So we'll just select that, copy. Okay, since it's not. For some reason. There we go. We have a copy. Drag this copy beside. And this one will be our heart. duplicate it, Command D or Control D. We'll do cart, and then we will do settings. So I'm going to select all of these and switch them to default. This little slider, as you can tell, I have this slider over here has the slider and the spacer. So what we're going to do is every time we animate it, we're going to move this slider over with our arrow keys. And I'll show you how we're going to do that. So I'm just going to press I, get the color picker, and there we go. So we have our navigation. So that's step one. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another component. So this navigation is now a component. I'm going to create a variant. Now we can use auto layout here. And we can just call this like navigation. And what we'll do is we'll just make copies. 4 copies. And we can actually select them all and give it a nice little outline, stroke outline. Oop, not a fill. There we go. So we got a nice little stroke outline going. And so with this, all we're going to do is we're going to make this default. We'll make this active. Make this one active. And make this active. We can select these homes and make them default. And we're going to use that slider. So click into here. You see that slider I have selected. Move it over to the heart. And if you hold Command or Control, you can like directly select within the frame. And there we go. So there we go. We have our navigation. All we'll need to do is link it together. So this is going to be great if you are creating a mobile app or any type of navigation, because you could just toss this in. These are like the very basics of it. So all I'm going to do is link them together for each page. You can come here and look at to see how I did it. I was essentially just using gentle because it gives a little bit of a bounce, but we can use the same thing. So what I'm going to do is link the heart to the heart page. We'll make sure we click Smart Animate, and we can use gentle. So there we go. Those are the settings. We're going to do this for every little thing. Remember, it's just going to automatically link for us back to the home, to the cart, to the settings, and you're just going to repeat this over and over again until you are complete. But shouldn't take too long, especially if you only have several navigation components. Oop, wrong one. Let's drag that up there. So it should look like this. And now all you need to do is I'm going to create like a frame here, copy that, paste it into my frame. Oops. The next thing I'm going to do is flow starting point, and let's press play. So here's our flow. Look at that. And that's how you can create your very own, very simple navigation. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be building some more navigation transitions, so let's get into it. We're going to get a little more involved with some of these little interactions within the components. So we built something very simple up here, and that was great because that was our simple navigation. But I want to build something a bit more involved. You'll notice that there's a bunch of variants over here. And let's take a look what that looks like on this page. So we have our prototypes. If we click play, we'll be able to see our complex navigation. So you'll see that they do some pretty funky things. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to show you how to start building these pieces so we can recreate that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are actually going to take a copy of this, and we're just going to call this, say, icon v2. We're going to have to create a couple of different states here. We can say this is our active state. You'll notice that this is slightly different, like it has current, so it's a true and false. So anything that's colored is current, and then it has like an animation sequence. So we'll create that over here. Animation. And the first, so they'll have like, this one is resting animation. So nothing is happening. So these ones will all be resting. And we're going to create a big line, or sorry, a big container. So this will be our final state. And anything in between. So we're going to have 5 that we're going to create. So let's start with our home. So what we're going to do is we're going to create 1. Let's make sure that we're going to call this 1 on our animation, but we're also going to give it a fill. So we're going to match that. So we have 1, 2, call this one 2, 3, hit enter, and 4. So we have our 4 states. Looks good. Let's take a look. So what I've essentially done here is I've lifted it up. So we have this. This has come up. Then it tilts, rotates left, rotates right, goes back to that position, very similar to up here, and then drops back down. So let's do that. So we have to, when we're animating here, we have to think in different steps, kind of like storyboarding. Just make sure that we're not clipping the component so they can maybe lift a little bit beyond the frame here. So the position is -1. So we're going to do the same thing here, -1. And this one will make sure that the Y position is -1. So they're all at the same height. And all we're going to do is we're going to rotate it one way. I don't know, like -15. And we'll do 15 degrees the other way. And that's essentially it. Now you can, once again, look here for some inspiration. You'll see that when I click, it's a 300 millisecond ease out. And then after delay, it goes 1 millisecond to 2, to 2, to 2, and then 2. Okay, so let's see how that looks. We're going to use the exact same one. So on click, we'll do ease out 300. Then we're going to do an after delay. So it's just going to play out on its own, 1 millisecond. So it goes really quickly. And after delay again, 1 millisecond. So it's going to set it to 200 automatically for us. And then again, and then it's going to rest at the final place right here. So where are we at? We are just going to click after delay, 1 millisecond. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start building this frame here. Detach that instance. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a copy. Oops. Gotta make sure I have the design. So we click prototype, click on frame 2. That's our flow 2 right now. We should have something really nice to look at here. Let's click play. So this is flow 1, remember, very simple. Flow 2, let's see what it looks like when we just click on this house. Boom. Looks great. So there you go. We have our first icon. Just a little raise, rotate, and going back, settling to that resting state. And if you come here into the component, you can kind of see how we did it. We have the type is going to be home, default, state, resting, and all these states are going to be our active states. So make sure we take that off. And the animation, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's resting, resting. And that's how you create a small little home animation. Hey everyone, and welcome back. Let's get into it now. So next step is to create our heart. We have already just created the home. Hearts can be very similar. We are going to create, boom, create another one, and another one. And that's going to be animation 1, oops, animation 2, animation 3, and animation 4. Okay. Just make sure everything's aligned. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go in, select all the hearts. I'm holding Shift and Command. While I'm doing that, you can use Shift and Control if you're on Windows, and go to -1. So they all pop above. If I click Shift and Enter, I can select the outside frame here. I'm just going to click Clip Content. Same thing with here, and clip that content. So make sure that nothing's clipped. If we just select all of them and do that, there we go. So we have them unclipped. So the first step, if we take a look as a reference here, is that it basically raises up, shrinks, expands, goes back to like normal, and then drops down. So let's do the exact same thing. I think even for the prototyping, we're just mimicking, the exact same thing that we did with the house. So let's do the exact same thing here. So all we're going to do is I'm going to make sure that everything's aligned. Perfect. Now that's going to stay the same there. Here, what we're going to do is we'll shrink, make sure this is selected so it's linked. So it's 16. Make sure it's centered. Still -1. So that's small. This one's going to be huge. So let's do like 24. And still -1. And this one can stay the same. So we'll link that together. So on click, it's going to be 300. And then now after delay for the rest, 1. And make sure that's 2 because it's going to be 3 because you just set it. So drag. And we are literally just copying what we have from previous ones. Just 1 millisecond, and same thing over here. Boom. Okay, I'm going to take this heart, copy it, paste it. If we take a look, we can get rid of this right now. Let's take a look at what we have so far. And if we want, we can just Command D. This one could be our cart, and this one could be our settings. So that way we're ready for when we do these versions. So they're not going to be really anything we can use yet. If I click play, go to flow 2. See, you can't really click these. So we have our beautiful. So obviously we can't like click off of them because we haven't created the whole navigation component, but that's how you create a beautiful little heart interaction. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We've been creating some pretty cool icons here. We have a house, we have a heart, and next we're going to do the cart. So let's jump in. We can kind of take a look at what the cart looks like here in our prototypes. We click play. We're going to recreate this one. So if we go into our complex navigation, click play. So it kind of does like a little back and forth, and it drops back down. So let's get to that. We can close these, go into our assets, because that's where I'm working right now. So I'm going to create more cart components over here. We have these variants. Looks great. Next thing I do is hold down Command and Shift and select these four and make sure that the Y is set to -1. Next thing I am going to do is make sure that the animation is set here. So we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, and we have 4. So I'm just going to look back here for reference. So it raises up, tilts back while moving forward, tilts down, goes back in that direction, and then resets and goes down. Okay, that seems easy enough. So let's do that. So this is the first one. So we're just going to tilt it up, I don't know, something like that. And move it in one direction. Wait, we're going to tilt it. And then shift it that direction. Then shift it in that direction. And then back. So it's like boom, boom. Maybe we can add a little bit. So let's just do 15. And we could do maybe -15. So we're adding some rotation. And then it goes back to normal. And then drops down. Okay, let's see how this looks. This one I'm kind of excited for. So we unclick. We do 300. And then we're going to after delay the rest. So after delay, 1 millisecond. And remember to set it to 200. We don't want it to be too long. After delay, it's going to be set to 200 already. Same thing. And then we should be complete here. Let's take a look. This one is going to be exciting. So I'm just going to press play there. This one should already be in here because we set it up in the last video. So if you haven't, just drag a copy there. Okay, let's zoom in. Flow 2, there we go. So we have our home, heart, and cart. That was pretty cool. Let's take a look. So we may need to, let's take a look at that one more time. Maybe we don't put anything on there. Any rotation. The rotation's actually not that bad. But we could go out a little bit more in that direction. So let's see if this is where I'm just kind of tweaking them a bit. But I think we got pretty close to what we wanted here. And there we go. So we have now our cart, we have our heart and our home, and our navigation is coming to life. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be working on our more complex navigation. We are going to be working more specifically on our settings. So let's take a look at what that looks like over here. So we're going to click play in our prototypes tab. We can go to our complex navigation. And essentially what we have here is that it's going to jump up, spin, spin, and go down. So that seems easy enough. We're literally just rotating. So let's go back to our assets tab, and we're going to do the exact same thing that we've done previously. Make copies of all of these. And I'm just going to set these to their animation sequence. So 3 and 4. I mean, you know the drill here. And I'm going to select all of these, make sure that they're -1, so they're raised. And so the first one, we're going to spin it. So I don't know, like we're going to pick something like maybe 105, 10. So it's like, you know, and I think the other one could be, I don't know, like 90. This one's going to be 0 because it's going to reset. And then I'm going to link them all together. I'm going to start over here because I already have the 200 milliseconds. So after delay, we'll have another after delay over here. Another one. And lastly, we have this one over here. Oops. There it is. 1 millisecond. And then we are going to do the first one on click. So that's on click. Make sure it's 300. Boom. And that should be set. So if we go into our prototype, we can see flow 2, home, heart, cart, and settings. So there you go. We have our settings already built. Next, we're going to put this all together in a very similar fashion to what we did over here with the navigation. And we can, finalize colors if we need to. Hey everyone, and welcome back. So we created a bunch of icons here. Now we're going to throw them into a navigation similar to here. So if we take a look, we have a bunch of different custom colors. We have nice little on-click. It's like a custom spring that we got going. So let's take a look at what that looks like in our prototypes page. If we click play, we can see the entire animation. So that's pretty cool. Okay, let's get to it right now. So I'm going to close that tab, go back in my assets page, and I'm basically just going to grab this, copy. We can make some changes here if we want to, like, maybe they're not 69, they're 40, or I don't know, maybe they're 56 pixels away from each other. It doesn't really matter. I think over here, the one thing we do want to do is we want to turn this into a component and start creating our properties. So we have a variant, and we have to click our type, call it whatever you'd like, making sure this is auto layout so they stack on one of each other nicely. And we are just going to create 4 different variations. So we have our first one, our second one, third, fourth. So one thing I want you to note here is that when we go to select the final state, make sure it's active and resting. This one too. It's going to be active, active, and active. Then we can actually start prototyping. So if I click on the heart, I want it to go here. And if you want to create a custom spring, we can do that. So maybe we do create Something like that. That's pretty cool. You can even shorten it a bit. That's nice. So we can keep like a spring like that. Let's take a look at what this looks like. So I'm going to copy it. We can remove this one in our frame, paste it, and center it vertically, horizontally. So if we're in our sidebar over here, we're just going to click Flow 2. So that was really nice. Now, you can start by selecting all the active ones. And the one thing I would do to get that animation to play out, you'll notice that I have them not sitting on resting, but they're on 1. Looks good. There we go. That's what we were looking for. So I like the custom curve that we used. So we're just going to use that everywhere here. And we're just going to connect it like how we did before. So back to home. Oops. Back to the heart. Back to the settings. Home. Heart. And cart. And you can come in here. I didn't do this for our simple navigation, but you can come in here and say this is our home. This is our hearts, or whatever you want to call them. Like they could be favorites or something else. And profile, or sorry, not profile, settings. I mean, it could be profile. Great. So the one thing I do want to point out, you'll notice that when we do click, we have this, and it's not going back to that component state. Like it's just staying there. What I've done on here is every time I click, I reset the component state. So that means that it goes back to its normal state. So you can select all of these. If you hold Shift while you're selecting these lines, this is something you need to do because it won't work otherwise. Just gonna drag this up here and reset component state. Let's start it again. Press R. I think this is the only one that hasn't worked yet. Okay, so that's going to be on this one. Let's see. Yep. So let's test that again. So we're on here. Perfect. Now we can come in here and actually create some colors. So, you know, the hearts, if I select them all, go into my design tab, you know, I can select like a nice red. The home, we don't have to use this color. We can use something else, like a deep blue or something. For cart, we can use something else. Maybe we use like a green. And then for our settings, we could just use like an orange. It's kind of nice when you have the different colors. And then for our slider, if I click it, we could just match that color for us. Now you don't need to use the same colors as I am. I mean, totally up to you. But you do not need to use these colors. I'm just using them just to, you know, illustrate. And there you go. That's how you create a really awesome, complex navigation. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be working on some scrolling prototypes, but first I want to show you how to build this design that we're going to be using. Really simple design, I promise. If you have this resource, you should have it, but it won't be editable. You need to come in here and duplicate it so you can use it. It'll duplicate to your draft so you can access it through there, and you'll be on your way. So if you navigate to the assets folder, you'll see that the landing page over here is already ready for you. So you can copy and paste it over here. And it is super simple. All we have here is the landing page. We have like a navigation and an auto layout. So we have like this little logo. We have a button, and they're set to auto, and they're just placed here. No other auto layout frame. Other thing that we have here is this overlay. So this overlay is essentially just a rectangle that is a linear gradient. Really simple stuff. And then we have this nice little CN tower. You can, basically try this out with a bunch of different things. You just need layers. And essentially that's what we have. We have a bunch of layers, and that's what's going to make this parallax scrolling look really nice, because we'll have like the CN tower hang over the Toronto lettering. We'll have the sky in the background moving at like a different pace as well. So it's going to look really, really great. And then I have these individual images at the bottom here, all named differently. So we have them like 01, 02, 03, 04. You're going to need that. And of course, the bottom section that just has some text. So I want to show you how we can stagger some content delivery, have a little back to top button to replay our whole prototype, but it is a super simple design that anyone can put together. If you've done the basic Figma portion, then you should be able to do anything like this. So, you stick with this for now. You can use some of these elements. You can create your own landing page, but this is going to be probably the best thing you can use for yourself just to get started really quickly. So that's how this landing page is built, and let's jump into it. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be working on creating anchor links, and let me show you how to do that. It's a super simple way to create a scrolling landing page and click like a button at the top of the landing page to bring you down to the bottom. So let's get into that. If we go to our prototypes, we'll see we have a bunch of prototypes here. We're focusing on this one at the top, and let's click the play button so we can see exactly what it looks like. So we are going to just essentially do like fill screen here in your options so you can see. And all you're doing here is you can scroll, but we want to click learn more. If you click learn more, it brings you right down to the bottom. If you click back to the top, it brings you back to the top. So very beautiful, very quick. Obviously, it's still functional if you scroll on your own. So it's a nice little way to add a little bit more functionality into your otherwise static landing page. I'm going to leave it open because we'll access it after. Let's go to our assets. We'll grab our landing page. I'm going to copy it and paste it into our prototypes. So we can keep it right here. So if we take a look at this prototype, all we have done, we can open it up. All that we've done is that when this is on click, it navigates, it scrolls to this frame, this text layer within this frame. And then if I click on this again, just the entire frame so you can see, the back to top is going to scroll all the way up to the nav. So I'm just going to press Command Z, Control Z, just to bring it back. So it's there. We're going to do the exact same thing here. If we wanted to really mimic the bounciness, we could just choose the gentle at 2000. I think that's fine as well. Let's take a look. One more thing. Okay. So I'm going to click learn more and just go there. So I just dragged it right to that text layer, scroll to, we're going to make sure it's animated. And we are just going to do gentle at 2000. So it's a nice, gentle thing. And then the back to the top, we'll go to the nav. Same thing, gentle 2000. And then we can make this shorter. So we can do like a max height or a height of 900. And go to prototype, set your flow starting point. We're going to call this flow 1. Let's jump in. So flow 1, let's see if it works. Let me close it and reboot it. Sometimes it doesn't capture those changes. Okay, so we're having some issues. And the one issue that it could be is, yep, I was right. You have to remember, and even I forget, as somebody who's been doing this for so long, that you need to set it to vertical scrolling behavior. So that way you can actually scroll. So if I click learn more, boom, back to top. Okay, this is an interesting thing that I want to teach you about. If I click learn more and I go, it's going to bring me right down to here. Now, the only reason it's perfectly set is because the container that this text layer is in offsets everything else. So it's going directly to the bottom of the container. But this back to top button, when it goes to the nav, it's going directly to the top of the nav. Now, this nav doesn't have any padding. So it's just cutting off right at the top. But if we look, the nav is about 81 pixels. I mean, we can make it a perfect 80. What we can do here is select the back to top interaction, and it's going to be negative 80. So it's going to go up another 80 pixels. So that way it's going to give us that breathing room that we want. So let's test it out. Learn more, back to top. And just like that, you've created your own anchor links. Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going to be working on some simple parallax animations. Let's get into it. So let's take a look. We're going to recreate this one right here. So I'm going to press play, load that up for us. We'll go to simple parallax, make sure that we're fitting the width or filling the screen here so that way we can see. So we can't scroll in this prototype because it's a 2-page prototype. As you can see, there's no scrolling. But we're going to click Learn More. And we get that nice little, staggered content delivery. We click back. You see how these pieces all essentially come in at different times. That's exactly what we're going to do over here. So you can come down to your assets. You can grab this, copy it, paste it. And there's a couple ways we can handle this. I like to create 2 copies. And we are essentially going to do 2 things here. This. They're going to be like this. So they're going to come in staggered. And they're all going to be like, we can mess around with like how they look, but we're going to make sure that all of these are essentially set to 0. And now we can set that to a height of 900. So it's not going to be exactly like our prototype because I'm just doing it quickly to show you, but it's going to be very close. So I want the overlay and the CN tower to move up quickly with the sky. Or the Toronto heading can kind of come down. And so can this. And then we're going to take everything and move it up. And maybe we just leave just a little bit peeking through like that. And this could be over here. 900. There we go. So we can customize it just a bit. Now, if you want to grab some inspiration for how we want this to look, we're using the same gentle 2000 milliseconds. So on learn more, we're going to do the exact same thing. Not dissolve, smart animate 900 milliseconds. And then we are going to do the same thing here. It is going to be 2000. There we go. And then there we go. So all that's left is a flow starting point. We're going to call this flow 1. Let's take a look. And there you go. We have our own little parallax back and forth, and it looks super, super cool. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We just created a very simple parallax over here, little animation, and that was great and all. But what happens if we want to extend that a bit? Let's take a look at our prototypes. So if we go to the extended parallax prototype, we are going to press R to restart. Let's have a little bit of an intro like that, where everything kind of comes into place. That looks really nice. And then you can kind of click and go back and forth. So I'm going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy and drag it out right there. And you can put the flow starting point on this one now. Now, this copy, we're not going to have any links or anything. It's just going to be one of those things that after a delay, it comes in. So it's starting and it comes in nicely. Now we can take some inspiration from here to see what we have here. It's 1500 milliseconds. It starts after 800. So I think we got something pretty similar here. Now, the only thing we're going to do that's going to change is we're going to take our overlay, our everything, drop it down a bit. We can take our heading, drop that, and then select everything, make sure that the pass-through is 0. It's already 0 for this stuff because it's 0 on here, so we don't have to worry about it, but let's take a look. So this is going to be our flow 1. If we go over here to our prototype, that's an extended parallax. And so we have a little bit more of an aggressive like Toronto that comes up, but it works perfectly. And there you go. That's how you can extend that parallax into something like an introduction, like when you first land on a web page. Hey everyone, welcome back. We are going to be working on some different ways to show pagination, whether it's a carousel dot or a legit pagination, showing like pages 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3, etc., showing you all the little micro interactions that take place there as well. So let's create those in Figma. So if you don't have this page, or if you don't have this resource, you should have this resource, but if you don't have it editable, you have to come down in this drop down and click duplicate to your drafts, similar to this drop down over here. And you'll be able to edit it by accessing that copy in your drafts. So let's jump in and create some carousel dots. So if we come here, we already have the carousels essentially created for us. We don't need to essentially worry about that. Like we can use this as a way to, this is our asset. We're going to use this to show you exactly what that means, but let's take a look. Okay, so this prototype, I'm going to press play here so we can see the actual carousel. This is like a simple paging prototype. So if I click, you see it has a nice little subtle hover. It has an active state, looks really great. Now we've created some interactive components before, and we're going to do the exact same thing here. So if I just grab a circle, so by pressing O, you can grab the ellipse tool, And I'm just going to create a circle. I think I made those 24 by 24. So, we can make ours a little chunkier if we want. So we got 32 by 32. And I'm going to create a couple different versions. So we have 3. So we'll leave those like that. We'll call this one default or active. We're going to make them all white. This one will be hover. Oops. And this one will be default. Default we'll set to like 20%. Hover we'll set to like, 40%. Or maybe it's like, 15 and 30. Okay, that looks great. And we're going to select them all, come up here, create a component set. We'll just call it our dot. And what we're going to do here is, just from the default to the hover, we're going to do on hover. While hovering, you're going to see that. And it's going to be a smart animate, and it's going to be around like 200 milliseconds. And so we're just going to leave it at that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring our dot down, and we're going to create the actual carousel itself. So if I make a copy of those dots, select them all together, Shift A, we have our frame. Let's call it carousel. Now, all we're going to do is we're going to set these to default. If I bring this carousel down, we're going to change it, move it over, and then we can actually create a new component set. This is our V2. So this is going to be 1. This one will be 2. I'm not worrying too much about the variant types, like the properties. Like you can look into here and see how I did it. So I did like position 1, 2, 3, and over here I did, is it current? Yes or no? Like you could just do states. Like I just did states, active, default, and hover. And so all I'm going to do is click and drag. And so it's going to be super, super easy. We did this with our first nav that we created. And when you have a carousel, you can basically create this and plug it in anywhere. I'm going to create a nice little frame, grab a copy and drag it. Can't really see it, but this frame can be and the only thing I'm going to do next is I'm going to create a flow starting point, and let's take a look. So this is what we currently have. Looks nice enough. Let's take a look when we press play on this one. So this is ours. Okay, so we have a couple different issues here. I think the only thing that we need to do is if we go back to look at our prototype, everything looks fine there. Let's go to the assets. So the one thing that you do have to remember is resetting that component state. So let's make sure that all our options here have that selected. We faced this issue before, remember, during the navigation. So we're going to reset that component state. That's not ours. This is ours. And that looks great. And there you go. Simple carousel dots. Hey everyone, and welcome back. So we created some pretty cool carousel dots, but let's get into actually creating some like little buttons and creating a little pagination control. So this is going to be like if you have a table and you have like more than 3 pages of the table, like you'd want to click back and forth. You could use this in a bunch of different, situations like that. This can also be used if you have like pages. I mean, traditionally that's what would have been used. Now, like, we have infinite scrolling and stuff like that. But let's take a look at how we can create this little micro interaction. So let's go into our prototypes over here and click play. We'll go to the pagination. And so as you can tell, we have like a disabled state when it's 1 of 3 because you can't go back. We have a hover and a press state. Okay, so that's looking great. Let's take a look at how we can create our own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually open up my command menu. So that's going to be command or control and backslash. And I'm going to search up material design icons. Those are the ones I'm going to use today. And I'm going to grab arrows. So I'm going to grab one of these. That's going to be my right. My left. There we go. So keyboard arrow right, keyboard arrow left. We can give them a nice color. We don't have to use the blue. We could use something else, like purple or something. We can change that after. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap them in a frame. So you can select it, frame selection. And I'm going to make that an auto layout frame. And we'll call this button. My keyboard is sending me all over the place. And we can give it, we're actually going to give it a proper height. So let's do a fixed width and a fixed height. And let's do something like 36. So that's going to be pretty big. So we have 36. I think over here we're doing 32, but I'm going to try with 36 right now. So we have 36. And I think we just need to fill it with white. Now we can adjust the color. Let's use green. I like that green. So we can use that. And we're going to make a component out of this. So let's just make that component. Let's go to our properties. This one's going to be a bit more detailed. So we'll have our property over here. And first thing I'm going to do is it's type. And so this is going to be left. We're going to take care of the left before we do anything else. So we have left, and it's going to have a rule on the right side. So let's add a stroke, and we can make that like 5% or 10%. And make sure that it is just set to the right. We're going to have a hover state. So let's go into our properties and create a state property. This one will be hover. Make sure it's set to left because it automatically made a new one for us. So this hover property, we're just going to fill it with the color that we're using. Very light. Something like that. So we have our hover. We need a rest state. So we can make that fill a little bit darker. And then finally, we're going to have a disabled state. So we can create a fill of that, of F, 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 which is white. And we can bring this down. We can essentially mimic the border here, or do like 20% black. And this one is disabled. And we're going to do the exact same thing for the right side. So first, I'm going to prototype it. So on hover, 200 milliseconds, I like that. On click, and then the after delay is going to send me back to here. And then there's nothing on this side. This is going to be our right position. Send it there, and there we go. We have a right and a left. The only thing left now is to put them together. We need this though. Keyboard arrow right. So make sure that this is set. So it's pointing in the right direction. Oops. I'm just pasting it in. This is going to be 00020. Press V to get out and backspace. And there we go. Now, the only thing we're going to do now is create copies. We're going to put this in a frame. So I'm going to press Shift A. Just call it pagination. And now we can fill it with white. Put some text in there. So I'm pressing T, text, and I'm going to call this 1 of 3. And we could do some spacing. And let's see what the text is. It's enter semi-bold. That's fine. I think 12 pixels. We could probably do 14 pixels. And the rounded borders. Clip the content there. Looking snazzy. We can make this a component now. And we're going to create a variant, as you've guessed. And we could just say position. Make sure to have a stroke on the outside of this to match the inside. So I think I had it at 10%. We can test it out over here by just giving a fill to the variant frame. So that looks good. And we're going to make copies. So this one's 2 of 3, 3 of 3. Remember, this one has to be disabled because you can't go back. This one can be disabled too. And we can start prototyping. So going in that direction, going in that direction, going in that direction, and going back. If we create a frame now, we can see how this has panned out for us. Let's press play. Okay, so we saw that little shift. Everything's obviously working, but the one thing we're going to do is we're going to set a hard width, which means that we're going to add a width. What's the width of this? The width of this is 150. We're just going to set them all to 150. So this is our other one. Whoops. Let's press play again. So let's, instead of setting a width, we'll set a width on the content here. I think the width is 48. We can set the width to 48 centered. And I think that should fix it. Yep. Now, we aren't getting a lot of the different interactions coming through. And that is because we haven't reset the component states. So remember to do that. Boom, that's already done. Perfect. Let's shut this off, play it again. That is looking great. So make sure that we have while hovering, that was our issue. Now we have that hover coming through. And there you go. That's how you make a very simple pagination control. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're going to be working on dragging within Figma. So if you don't have this resource ready to use, just come into here, this little drop down. You'll have an option to duplicate it to your drafts. So do that, please, because you won't be able to use it otherwise. Let's jump right in. Our first thing that we're going to work on is building out a draggable listing card. So if we come into our assets, we'll see that we have one here, has like a little carousel with like an active state and an inactive state. So we're not doing any clicking on the carousel, and we have our listing card. I'm going to copy that and go into our prototypes, because we are going to essentially be building this exact prototype. So let's take a look at what that prototype looks like. So essentially, this is it. We're just going to drag from image to image, and that's it. So let's get in there. So what I'm going to do is we're going to work with 3 so we can, get the hang of it. So I'm going to click in. I'm holding Command, or you can hold Control while in the Design tab. And you can click and make this our active one. This one can be our inactive, and our third one will be active. So we have 3. Next thing I do is I'm going to go into my plugins and search up Unsplash. So we have a first image. We're going to need some other images of a home. So if I click into the image, I'm holding Command and clicking in there. I'm going to go to search and go to, maybe we'll just do living room. This looks nice enough. And I'm going to select this image, and we'll do bathroom. Whoop. And this one looks nice. So that's it. Now, the other thing we're going to do is we need to make sure these image layers are named different if we want to push them out. So this is going to be image 1. This one's going to be image 2. And this one is image 3. If I go to prototype now and select the carousel container, I'm going to drag it over here and say on drag, I want to push. So that means that it's going to come in from this way. So animate all the matching layers. Do the same thing. Push this way. Now we're going to do it going back the other way. We want it to come in. And on this side, we're going to do it back to the first one. Perfect. I'm going to press F. And put that right here. And then we will create a flow starting point. Let's see what our flow looks like. Oh, wow. Let's actually start the flow here. I see what happened. There we go. Flow 1. Now let's press play. Okay. So there we go. Boom. Okay, so we have a little issue with on click. So on drag, remember, on drag. This one I think is on click. There we go. These little subtleties, remember to do your best to remember that. Start again. And there you go. That's how you make a nice little carousel sliding transition for your listing card. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be working on some more dragging, but I want to do it with scrolling. So I'm going to come into my assets tab. You can get this listing over here. We can copy it. And all we're going to do is paste it over here. And there are a couple of different ways you can drag. So let's come into our play button and go to overflow scroll. So you can set like a max height, and you can do that by just having it like this. So you have like content that drags outside of that box like that, and making sure your scroll behavior is set to overflow vertical. So if I come in here, I see my flow 1, it's working, but we can essentially make it so that way, clipping this content should make sure that the content hides underneath. And there you go. That's how you can make a very quick overflow scroll. But if I wanted to say, take this and say that there's no scrolling, and I wanted to hug all the content, so we have a long list. Now it isn't going to scroll. So flow 2, it'll scroll, but it'll be one massive list, which doesn't necessarily look good, right? So the next thing we can do here is come to your devices and select a device to use. I think I have this, the width is, let's see, the width is at 375. So we can come here, and which device has 375 as their lift? I think this one right here, iPhone mini. So we can use that. And now it's inside the phone and it's scrolling nicely. You can do a couple different things as well. Like if you come here, you can set like certain things to fixed. Like say I want to set this one to sticky at the top edge, and this one we would just need to modify it very similar to the way we've modified this. So this can't be an auto layout container anymore. This is going to come to the top. This one, if you use your bracket, needs to come to the bottom. And then go to prototyping. So that's going to be fixed, stayed in place. This is going to be on the very back, so I'm just last bracket. This search container is going to be fixed and stay in place. That is essentially it. Let's see. Let's make sure that they're the same. So I have nav, search container, and listings, and this one is search container, nav, listings. So There we go. I think the only thing that we're going to have issues with here is, let's take a look at our device scroll. That looks good. We have our nav, no scrolling. This one, and no scrolling. Same with that one. So just making sure that everything is the same. This one should be bottom center, like this. This should be top. That's fine as well. Fixed, no scrolling. Fixed, no scrolling. And there you go. You have your very own device scroll. Looks great. Great job, everyone. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be creating a simple drag and drop. So let's go into our assets. Let's grab these assets. We're going to grab this. We're going to grab these two. And we're going to go to our prototypes. We're going to paste them here. And then we're going to create a frame because we're going to recreate this frame by frame. We'll call this frame drag. And if I press I can grab the color that we're using. So what we're going to do is we are going to essentially create 4 frames. This is going to be our final frame. This one is going to be that frame. This one's going to be over here and tilted. And we can call this in progress. This one's going to be in progress. And we need a nice little drop down for this. So nice little drop shadow. And this is going to be over here. And it's going to be in progress. So it's going to be click, mouse down, drag. And when it gets over here, so this is the other thing. We're going to set this to a fixed height. It can't be inside the frame, the done frame. It needs to actually be outside the done frame. So I'm going to drag it out. So it's just hovering over, and then we're going to dissolve it into here. So let me show you. So moving over, we're going to go on mouse down. It'll be around 150 milliseconds. But we're not going to use Smart Animate. We're going to use, we're not going to use dissolve. We're going to use Smart Animate. And then on drag, we could do 300. Maybe this is a little bit too much of an aggressive curve or rotate. And then over here, when we stop dragging, it's just going to be like after delay, 200 milliseconds, but it's not going to be Smart Animate. It's going to be dissolved because this is now finally going to be inside the done frame. This is hovering over the done frame. So let's click play so we can see what that looks like. So the original looks something like this. You know, as it's going, that container is increasing. I let go and it changes. Over here, as I'm going, increases, and done. And there you go. That is the quickest way to create drag and drop. Remember that when you're smart animating these layers, they need to actually be like in the same order, and they need to be in like a frame or outside the frame that they're working within. This one had to be outside the frame, and then when we got hovering over the frame, it could then be put inside the frame finally, but just through a dissolve animation. Looks really similar. They're in the same place. Nothing else really happens there. And that's it. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be working on micro interactions today. So if you haven't already, please come over here to this little menu and click duplicate. You need to do that before you can get this resource. So let's come into our assets. We have a couple of uploader components that we can use. These elements, they consist of a bunch of different things, whether it's like a close button, there's a complete uploader icon. So we know how to create these. There's a hidden state, there's a start state. So that will just move into this state if we go to our prototype. So after a delay, it'll, be a heart. It's really small, then it kind of grows. And then we have a loader. So it starts from 0 and ends at 100. And this is our file uploader. So let's start with the simple uploader. We're going to just copy it and go into our area over here. And essentially what's happening here is if I create another item, this loader over here, we can shrink it to be like 1 in terms of its width. And over time, maybe it's just like after delay of 100 milliseconds, we do a smart animate and it takes like something like 4,000 milliseconds. So that's what we're gonna try and see if we can recreate it. Let's press play. If we go to simple upload, this is what it looks like. We have like a background change. And that's really nice. Ours is very simple. We're just using the line instead of this whole background. So let's see how we can create that background. So we have the loader background over here, and it seems like it's already filled. We can take that loader background, go into design, take the loader background, go all the way down to 1. So now it should load up. And essentially we're just creating that like scale. We're moving it from one side to the other. And that looks pretty good. And then, you have your states here. And there you go. That's how you can create a very, very simple file loader. Hey everyone, what happens if you want to extend our simple upload to be more like this, having an upload complete little message and a check mark? Let's take a look at the prototypes. So if we come over here, we're going to watch this. It's almost complete, and we're going to get a nice little check mark. Boom, looks beautiful. So let's create something like this, but we're going to put a little extra oomph into it. So I'm going to create another copy of this, and I'm going to make sure that this is connected to that through an after delay. So we can do like 100 milliseconds, 300 milliseconds is fun. We can delete this loader, and we can bring this details frame like centered. Now, go into our design tab and make sure that this close button is actually a complete button at the start of the animation. So it's not hidden, it's starting, it's going to go into that check. It's going to like bounce up. And we can even take this text. So I'm going to copy it and just paste it. And the loader background, we can press I and steal the screen as well. So let's take a look at what ours looks like. So it's a little quicker, that's fine. It's uploading, and boom. we get a nice little animation. Let's see that one more time, because that's how you create a beautiful uploading complete success animation. Hey everyone, and welcome back. So we've created the upload success. Now we want to do the upload cancel. You'll notice that over here, we're just going to click on this button and it's going to go to this state, but we want to have it like loading in the background. So let's take a look at the prototypes for this. So stop upload. So we notice that we have that upload happening, and we stop it, it cancels it out, it goes into that state. Now you may be wondering, how do we do that? So that's where this beautiful little component comes into play. It's automatically loading for us all the time. Previously, we weren't doing that. So if we take our complex upload asset and bring it in here, you can click in, and let's go back to our assets one more time. Let's copy that and paste it right into our uploader. Just move it down. Move this loader out of the way. So it's right there. So if I go to prototype, select this one and go flow starting point, I'm just going to leave it like this because I want to see if it's working. So flow 2. Yep, it's working perfectly. And then this is ready for us. So the next thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to pull this one in. And instead of upload complete, we can use the upload canceled here. We can just copy that and paste that right in here. And we can take the loader background, press I, steal that color. Oh, is it not stealing it? For some reason it isn't. Let's take a look at our design. Make sure. There we go. There we go. Finally, that one did not want to go. So what we're going to do here is we're going to prototype and make sure that the after delay hits there. So after like 100 milliseconds, or actually, no, we're not going to do an after delay. On click, we're going to navigate here. So let's take a look. So we have that coming up. We need to remove that. And instead of start, we can just say hidden. And instead of smart animate, let's just use a dissolve. Keep it simple. So let's see what this looks like. Boom. And so it's still there. You know, you could cancel it. You could make sure that, you know, we can just have a spacer there right now. There you go. That's how you create a nice little cancellation. Boom. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be creating some nice like button components. Let's get into it. We're going to create two different types. One, which is a simple button. We're going to start with that one first. So let's go to our prototypes, and we're going to create this simple button like this. And if we go to our button, we go to our prototypes. You can also press play, but I have it open already. If we go to our simple prototype here, all we're doing is we have a hover state, click. You see how it kind of depresses a little bit. Looks like it's actually being pressed down. So that's all we are going to do. And I'm going to show you how I created it. What we have here is we have a button and we have a couple of different like icons. So this like icon, we have the ability to see it has a state. So this is the default state. We're just going to use that one. So we have the default state. So we have a like. This is also going to be fixed, the width of the button, because it's going to change to liked. So we're going to have a hover. Let's see what that hover is. We can use the same one, and then we're going to have a press state, and this press state is going to be the exact same. The only difference is we're going to make that drop shadow only like, I don't know, 7%. And we can bring the blur in some more. We're going to make it a lot less. Like you can see this one over here. This one's at 217. What do I have at? I have it at 2. You can even do it like more like 5. So we're going to create those components, and we're going to create like state. And then the next one is it's going to be liked, and we're going to make these ones false. So this one's default state, hover state, and we have pressed state. Next thing we're going to do, make some copies. And they're going to be blue. The borders, we're going to grab the border from here. So this is going to be the same color as that border. And over here, it's going to be white. But we have to make sure that now it is liked. These little ones over here, they're going to be white. And we can now start playing around with prototyping. So on hover, so while hovering, change to that. We're going to use 200 milliseconds. On click, and then after delay. Oh wait, sorry. After delay is going to go to here because we liked it. So it's not a traditional button, it's like a toggle button. So after 50 milliseconds, we'll navigate to there. Now we're just going to do the same thing on hover, on click, and after delay, let's do 50. It's going to go there. We can set the background to this to fill. And if I just grab a frame, and if you really wanted to, we can take this and make it a little darker. And this one, we can make this one a little darker too. And let's see how this looks. Let's create a flow starting point, press play. I'm really excited about this one. Okay, let's zoom in. So we have a nice little hover, press. Looks good. It looks like it's actually okay. It looks like it's actually working. Just need to make sure that all the drop shadows, 7 to 20. I think that's the same thing here. 7 to 20. This one should be the same thing. 7 to 20 and 7 to 20. Looks great. And there you go. That's how you create a very simple liked button. Hey everyone, and welcome back. Let's get into creating something a bit more involved. We're going to be working on a nice little bounce. So if we go to our prototypes and click play, we're going to take that liked button and turn it into a whole other beautiful thing. So if we go like button bounce, if we click it, has a nice little thumbs up. Let's show you how that works. So we're going to go into our assets and we're going to look at our icon here. So all that I've done with this icon is I've shifted it. I've basically just rotated it a bit, So we have this kind of state where the thumb is closed. Then we have it pausing. So if we go to our prototype, so we have this. So it's turning downwards. So it's starting. It pauses. So after delay it goes there, it takes 250 milliseconds. Then it pauses for another 1 millisecond, and then it bounces up. So that's why it starts like this with the thumb closed state. So we have the thumb closed state on both, the pause state. Create this. We're going to create one of these. Let's do material design icons. Let's see if, no, it's not going to show up, but maybe thumb. There we go. We'll grab that one. And let's create a component. We're going to create variants. We're going to create one variant for this so you can see how you can create your own. Because modifying this is actually quite easy. So we are going to create the property. We're going to call it state. We'll just call this complete. We'll create another one. That's complete. This one will be our pause. And then this one will be our start. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click inside here, select the vectors, and I'm just going to tilt them -15, like that. Now you'll see it's cut off because of the frame. So if we select all the frames and unclip content, it'll be good. Next thing I'm going to do is actually going to click in and delete a lot of this. You don't want to actually delete them. You can just drag them to the point. And delete these little curves. Now, it may not be as perfect. You know, we got something like that. So we don't have to do it again. Let's create another one. So we have this pause and then the bounce. So it goes something like this. After delay, and then after delay, and we're going to do like a custom spring. We want a little bit of bounce. And I think that's what we used here, to be honest. Yeah, it was about 769. So we can, this one, I made it about, I made it a little long. So if we say take this button, detach the instance. So you're just going to right click, detach instance, copy this, paste it into here. Right now, these are set to 20. We can set these to 20 as well. So they're a little bit smaller because 24 is quite big. So it's set to 20. Let's create a prototype. And we're just going to call this one our flow 2. Let's see what it looks like. Press play. So this is our normal button, and like we're not having anything with that, but flow 2 is doing something interesting. So after delay, it's dissolving. Make sure that you're smart animating. And we can tighten that up, maybe make it a little more bouncy. Let's see. And there you go. We have a nice little animation. You can make it a little bit more bouncier. You get a little bit of like this background that's coming through, but I mean, let's see what it looks like when it's really bouncy. That's a bit much, so I wouldn't opt for something like that, but maybe something like this. Bouncy is a bit much as well. And gentle is a bit too slow, so I think something like that is maybe the sweet spot. And there you go. You can create your own like button. Now you can go ahead and create different colors, so that way when you click on it, then it turns to like white, like how we see here. All it is just a click back and forth. And there you go. That's how you create a nice like button with a bounce, with a little like icon. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be working on some beautiful motion design within Figma. We are going to be working on delight. So you can create delight with a lot of different things. We're going to be working on things like confetti pops and stuff like that, checklists, adding to cart, making those moments a little bit more exciting. So if you don't have this file, it's called a delight. You need to duplicate it to your drafts at the top, a little drop down. Then you'll be able to access that from your drafts. So let's get into it. So over here, if I come into my assets, I'll have all that I need for this one that we're going to build here, which is this nice confetti pop. I'm going to Command C or Control C and paste it over here. So we're just going to use it up here. And I want you to watch what we're going to create right now. We're going to press play, come to this little prototype over here. Congratulations, confetti. So it's going to start with you did it, exploding confetti and dropping to the ground. I think that looks great. So we have lots of different moments and elements that are moving around. You're going to need to use the confetti generator to create your own confetti. But first, let's get to creating this page. So we have a nice little icon here. Let's create it together. So if I select everything, you know, we can bring this icon in here. We have a button at the bottom. We can just copy this text over. And then we have this confetti. And all this is it's just kind of sitting in the back like that. And I think this is going to be the only thing that's on top. Now you can come over here and select confetti generator. And here you can specify like the type of confetti you want, whether like you have like spirals, triangles, like raindrop is probably interesting. You know, you can have a lot of confetti. You can have the color presets you can change. You know, whether you have rectangles. I didn't want any rectangles. I didn't want triangles. You can have circles. Stars, I had lines and squiggly lines. So you can basically set that out and you can insert the confetti anywhere you want. So you see how it kind of grabs that. But, you know, do that whenever you feel like is best. We can bring the continue up here and we can leave everything as such. I think we're pretty close to what we want. So we have our confetti. It looks great. The next step we're going to do is we're going to create a bunch of, we have 5, 1, 3, 4, 5. So the first one, let's take a look. Nice. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to delete 3 of them, keep a final one. This is the final one, or one of the final ones. I'm going to take this confetti. I'm going to select all of them. Use that Command A or Control A. We're going to go to Design, and we're going to make sure that we can align them to the center. So they're all going to align there and align to the middle. And then I'm going to put them behind here. They're all going to be kind of hidden. We can do 0 pass through on that. This is also going to be really small. Like, I mean, like really small. Okay, we could just leave it there. So you can barely see it. This is going to be off screen and 0 pass-through. So we're doing some parallax stuff. And this one is going to be the exact same. So first is this. We can delete that. It's going to come in here. This is going to be over here. Staggered at 0. So then we have this. Next thing we're going to do is bring this in. We can delete that and bring here, Command C, Command V. So it's going to blow up, like pop. And then we are going to have our confetti come in finally. And then our final screen, our confetti is going to fall. So let's grab all the confetti, press enter, and it'll select all of them while you're on the main group. And you can just go like this, align to the bottom. And we're just going to put that all the way down here. So you can see what I've done here. Confetti is all the way at the bottom. Same thing with my confetti, all the way at the bottom. Okay, so we're going to start. So after a delay, maybe around like 200 milliseconds, we're going to smart animate. Then we're going to do the same thing. We can, add some bounce to it if we want. Let's see what we did here. No, we did it like an ease out. Sure, let's just do an ease out. This point, we can probably do like a slow bounce. And that's what I think I've done here. Did a custom spring, which is kind of like a slow bounce. But after delay, let's make our own custom spring too. And then I think we basically ease in and out 8,000. Ease in and out. Okay, I know everyone is excited to see how we net it out here. Let's see. Flow 1. And that was it. After delay. There we go. And there you go. We create a nice little confetti pop. And I think the only thing I would do here is maybe put a 200 millisecond delay before that confetti happens. And yeah, I think this is a great stab at this one. Great job, everyone. Hey, everyone, and welcome back. So we just worked on a confetti pop. I want to work on the grocery checklist over here. This looks pretty simple because it's only one frame, and we are only going to rely on some interactive components to make this happen. So let's click into it. Let's see what we got here. So if we navigate to the checklist one, we'll see that we have these nice little check items. So if I click it, so if we zoom in a bit, what happens is this line kind of turns into this line, then it checks. If we reverse it back. looks good. Let's see how we will create our own. So we have our check, and this is pretty simple. So I'm going to just kind of demonstrate how this is created. We have a little rectangle here. So the component is essentially dictated by a couple different variants. We have a type, so it's either a check or a line. We have whether it's completed. So this is not completed. This is completed. And the animation, whether it's the start of the animation, the end. And this one's going to be the end of this animation, the start. So, because what happens is, if we take a look, this check mark bounces in our prototype, right? So it's going to be super small. And if we check over here, this line is super small. So it grows. Do you see how it shrinks? And then when it comes back, it grows. So let's get to it, because there's 4 different states here. So what happens is we have this label with a strike. This strike is essentially set to be absolute positioned. And it's over here. And what happens is when you click on this, it goes to this state over here. And the line on the left-hand side starts to shrink. So it shrinks. And then very quickly, so that happens fast, 100 milliseconds. An after delay, after it's finished, it goes right into sliding. And over here, this gets replaced with the check in the start state. So it's in this state first. So it goes this to this, so it shrinks, replaces, then turns into the checkbox. So it's going to be in this state, and then when you click on this, then it moves to this state with the checklist item back again. And then we get a nice delay where this item turns into this item over here. So it's a little complex. And if we come to our prototypes, what happens is this is that state, and it's going to happen quickly where this ends up to be nothing, and this gets crossed out, and you get that little check. And as soon as this happens, this is going to turn into that empty state again and slide open all this. And there you go. That's how you create this little checklist item. It's very, very complex, this one. So I would take your time and try to make exactly what I did. I would start actually with the label. So I would build something like this first. So we have my check item. And inside my check item, I have my strike that's right across. I have my check item like that. I'm going to turn it into a component. Then you have this state where it's essentially 2 states that you're switching between. And the strike And there you go. So if I were to show you what this would look like, this is where I would start with a more complex animation like this. Let's click play. So you get a nice back and forth. So you don't need that little check mark bounce, but you can have that nice little sliding and unsliding strike through. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be creating a pretty cool add to cart button. So we created a bunch of buttons in the past, like we've created bouncy buttons, we've created simple buttons, but we haven't really created a nice button that is pretty complex in the sense that it adds so much animation to it. Let's take a look at our prototypes. So let's press play. And if we go to the add to cart prototype and click plus, so we have a nice little animation. What happens is this disappears, this grows, tilts back, flies off the page, and it reloads again. So let's see how we created that. Let's go to our assets. So we have our own add to cart. Let's just move that out of the way. We're going to delete that button because we're going to create our own. Let's start by creating this button. We're detaching that instance. Let's make it like, I don't know if I like that blue, but maybe it's like maybe it's a green or something. And this button can't be an auto layout button. It needs to be an actual, just regular frame. So first state is our hover. Then we have our click, where this goes. We could probably skip a scene here, make this bigger, like that. It's going to tilt back. And then it's going to scoot off into the sunset. And then we're going to make sure nothing's inside. That's going to be our final state. So let's turn these, make sure that they're the same green. That's just the hover state. And we'll turn them into a component set. So we have default, hover, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to go to prototype. So on hover, 200 milliseconds. On click, we can take some inspiration from here. On click, we'll maybe just go down to 300 milliseconds. And then after delay, I think like now at this point, like we're just switching. After delay, 1. Then I'm not sure how much I chose for this, but I chose 400. After delay, it's going to be 400 milliseconds. This is just going to be the spot in between, so we don't need to worry about that. I think we just need to make sure that's ease out, not ease in and out. Ease out's like probably the nicest default. And to be honest, I think we can get rid of that one and just loop it back. So Let's try that. I want to reduce the amount of screens we have, make it as simple as possible. So after 200 milliseconds, we dissolve. I think that is fine. I'm going to copy this, paste it into there. Let's add a flow starting point and let's see how it looks. So we have a nice little hover state. Okay, so it went across. We need to make sure it flies off that page. So it's just because the button isn't super long. We are over here, and I think the cart needs to go all the way. So I'm holding shift and that arrow key, so it's going all the way that way. Let's see. And there you go. That's a little exciting movement. And you got your own add to cart button.